once had a client that was given a prenup she didn't want to sign. She was in law school at the time, marrying an entrepreneur who had family money. Prenup waived community properties, so no joint debts or assets during the marriage. 8 years later, they divorced. Turned out he made a lot of bad investments, took out personal loans in his name, which would have otherwise been community debt had she not signed the prenup, and filed for bankruptcy. Meanwhile, she was a law firm partner making $500,000 a year. Because of the prenup, she didn't have to take on half his debt or pay him alimony, and she kept all her earnings separate. She sent me a thank you note after her divorce.
In the modern world, there are almost no legal incentives or benefits for a man to get married or cohabitate with a partner. Everything men used to get from marriage can be received outside of one now that it is no longer seen as shameful to do so by modern standards. If someone files for divorce, let them leave with what they paid for. Nothing else. No child support, no money. Parents get 50-50 in custody unless one opts out, but even then, no money to the ex. If one can't afford to raise, house, clothe, and feed kids part-time, then they don't get custody. Also, mandatory paternity tests at childbirth and in the event of divorce. If not his kid, the woman has to make full monetary reparations for emotional damage and jail time for fraud.
Why don't men get alimony? Because it's my personal belief that the laws are neutral. They're gender neutral. But men do not get treated fairly when it comes to alimony in the court system. Judges are biased against them. They are. And I'm sorry to say it, but that's the truth. In the last 40 years, I have had 4 cases that I remember of men getting alimony that I had to twist their arms in order to get alimony for them.
Do men get alimony when they get divorced? I've seen men get alimony before. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen when you have the wife who is a celebrity. But in most cases, there is a bias against men and they don't get alimony.
Feminism and its consequences have been a disaster for modern society. The fact is, no-fault divorce wouldn't be such a big issue if child support and custody plus alimony were more evenly balanced, fair for men. The socioeconomic status of women has risen, making it more difficult for them to satisfy their hypergamy. The residual effect of this has artificially satisfied their biological imperative. The boss, the pet, and the apartment are in lieu of the husband, the child, and the house. This causes a conflict of interest when looking for a suitable mate choice. The government may take away the no-fault divorce, but it will be for the sake of keeping the working class domesticated. We all know that the government needs us to be shitted on and to achieve the bottom lines for the corporate snakes. It's merely for tax purposes. The court system will still favor the conviction of black men and other minorities and will continue to give women the benefit of the doubt. But it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I think men will still travel abroad. This is for younger guys. Remember, under no-fault divorce, if you marry a woman and are together for 10 years or so, all that time you're contributing to the mortgage and investing in a 401k. And if at some point she decides she's found a hotter guy, she can file for divorce and you lose half of all that you invested while she just moves on to another guy. Don't do it. Numerous creative concepts that initially seem promising end up having terrible unintended outcomes. Uncontested divorce is a prime example. We didn't anticipate that it would encourage women to get married for the money and quickly get divorced so they can keep the money. These days, women openly admit to doing this. In videos, they refer to their first union as a starter marriage, which indicates that they anticipate it will only last temporarily. There's nothing worse than going to the home you worked your back off for, to pick up the kids for your weekend, and another man is sitting in your lazy boy watching your big screen TV. To all you young men, think about it. Just don't do it. A girlfriend is just as good, and if things do not work out, you still get to keep what is yours. You don't have to watch another man enjoy what you worked for. We all know that the legal system is designed to work in favor of women and use men's resources to pay for their financial expenses for the rest of their lives. Women were never aligned with their men in what they wanted to achieve in life, and there have been many cases where women had actually planned to marry wealthy men, only to divorce them and live off of divorce money without having to work for the rest of their lives. Women have deceived men into marriage, only to take away their resources. A lot of the credit goes to the MGTOW movement that allowed men to share their experiences and opened each other's eyes regarding the true nature of women. The issue with no-fault divorce is that 90% of the time, the father loses custody of his kids, his house, and half of his money. It has also doubled the rate of male suicide, with divorced men accounting for 2/3 of all suicides in men, Women who divorce their husbands are financially rewarded by the government. We are basically in a position where being a man is almost criminal. A typical divorce or family court judge will deal with one guy each year who is forced to terminate his life because he is unable to follow court rules. What ended the idea and institution of marriage was the promotion of broken families. No-fault divorce was just the thing that took down the last wall preventing the family unit from breaking from the said promotion of broken families. If the laws were implemented fairly and made sense, things wouldn't be nearly as bad as we are today. In fact, governments do all they can to make things unfair. Just look at common law marriage. Men don't even have to get married to be deemed married by law. The problem men have today is that we've been educated that men and women are equal. There was this sense and understanding that men are providers where they are, the breadwinners for the family, as well as their protectors from other men or from the evils of society. And if you don't provide that role, you'd get kicked out of your community. Or if the man is an alcoholic or an abuser, he'd be divorced. So, that's what divorce used to mean for men. But now, after the feminist no-fault divorce phenomenon, it has changed the game entirely. Now, the men of this generation and the next who have been brought up in the era of feminism and who are made to believe that men and women are equal, have to then also pay for child support. They have to pay for alimony, fight for their kids. While the society tells everyone that men and women are equal, that doesn't make sense if you think about it. There's nothing in such a situation. For women to want true equality, they must agree to 3 things. 1. Mandatory registration for the draft. 2. For every air-conditioned white-collar job attained, women must equally represent a blue-collar position as well. And 3. Paternity tests at birth. This will solve a lot of people's problems and make it easier for the justice system to see the reality for what it is. This is why more men are online teaching other men about the pitfalls of dating. Women with children because they are high risk, and it must be having an effect. Because the number of women with kids now online protesting that men don't want to date them has skyrocketed. Where a DIY paternity test is banned or requires the woman to also agree to have it done, such as in Germany, I think the man should just go ahead and do it anyhow without the knowledge of the woman, because that is basically what has happened to him. From that point, he will then know for sure and be able to put steps in place to quietly leave and protect his assets. After being given a taste of power, these women's addiction has become chaotic. With the end of no-fault divorce, there will be a shift in what will happen if a person quits without giving a reason. They are not compensated for departing. This modification eliminates the possibility of her leaving out of boredom or a change of heart, while also eliminating alimony, half the savings, retirement, investments, and the family house. Equaling fewer future voters for politicians to keep their agenda and voters to stay in power. Taxes to pay their salary are also part of the equation. Just like anyone in a position of power, they will do anything to keep it, even if they have to give up a little now to keep a lot later. Just how they like to create problems for a generation and then to come up with solutions, albeit in their favor later for it. Regardless, passport bros up. This is one of the biggest wins for men so far in the US. People seldom got divorced in the past because they required valid justifications, not merely allegations, such as physical abuse, infidelity, or abandonment. I'm very happy that this is back in effect because it forces people to get married out of true love and stay married for a lifetime. And so feminists are losing their minds and realizing slowly that men don't have the equality these women are seeking. They get treated worse. They such it up and work themselves to misery but don't whine about it. The fact that this thinking is now out in the open, and maybe the young feminists are realizing men don't have it good, they're finally seeing the truth. Thanks for watching The Circle of Kings. As always, we're looking forward to your support. So please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything all kings like yourself need to know.